Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV. We've got another cool Xiaomi product to take a look at. This is their new panoramic action cam. They call this one the mijia, or the mijia. It's a 3.5K panoramic action cam because you've got a camera lens on one side and another lens on the other side, but it's a very thin and lightweight device. It works pretty nicely, and we'll see how all of it stacks up here in just a second. But I do want to mention, in the interest of full disclosure, this came in free of charge from GearBest.com. However, all the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Nobody is paying for this review, and no one is reviewing this content before it is posted. All right, so let's take a closer look at the hardware now. This sells for less than $300. It's usually around $275 or so. Really nicely constructed, a nice aluminum frame here in the middle, plastic on the front and back, but really nice quality plastic. And overall, just like other Xiaomi products, this is very well constructed and it feels really nice. Now, this is something that you can't really get here in the United States or in other parts of the world. It is sold mostly in China, but sites like GearBest will ship this over to you so you can get access to it. Some of the stuff that you'll see in the box is in Chinese, as are portions of the app, but there's enough English in the app to give you an idea as to what you are doing. So I am not going to say don't get it because you can actually use it even if Chinese is not your native language. Overall, the camera is pretty simple to operate. There's a couple of controls here on the top. This button starts and stops recording. This button here turns on the Wi-Fi that you use to pair it up with the app that controls the camera. And this little button here turns it on and off, but it also switches modes, so I can go between still photo mode and video mode just by tapping the power button briefly. And if I hold it down longer, it will shut off. On the bottom here, you've got a tripod mount, which is very important because on its own, it doesn't make much sense to have the camera held like this because it'll just pick up the back of your hand for most of the video that you're recording. So what they do is pack in, or what they did, is they packed in a tripod here that comes with it, which was very nice to see. So you can mount it up on the tripod to put it somewhere, or you can walk around with it with the tripod here elevating the camera for you. So that was pretty useful to have that in the box. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do too much with it out of the box. It runs on an SD card. It's got a capacity for a 128 gigabyte card at the max. That's what I have installed in here at the moment. It does not come with the card. And you've got a USB port here for charging it up. It does support fast charging. I believe it's Quick Charge 2.0, but I was also able to just charge it off a regular USB charger. Doesn't take all that long for it to charge, and you get about an hour or so of video recording as a result. Less so, though, if you have the Wi-Fi enabled and you're using the app for preview purposes, because its little CPU has to work harder to stitch the video together. Now, the camera is rated as a splash-proof device, otherwise known as IP67, which means that you can put it in about 3 feet of water submerged and it won't have any issues over the course of a 30-minute period. That's the standard it has to meet. I did drop it into some water earlier while it was recording to see what would happen, and no ill effects after being in the water for about 10 or 15 minutes, a very shallow little water table that my kids play with. So I think if you're out surfing or something like that, it'll probably do well there, but not recommended really for diving. There is a little gasket here in the one opening that the camera has, which is where the USB port and the SD card go. So as long as this little door here is sealed up very tightly, you should be okay, although it doesn't really snap into place. You definitely want to check it before you do anything with it. I don't believe there's any housings for this yet, so at the moment you have to rely on its own waterproofing capabilities here to survive. But again, not diving, but I think you'll be okay if you are out surfing with it or something like that. Now, this is a 3.5K camera, and I've found with a lot of these consumer cameras out there that 3.5K, even 4K is not enough to get a super sharp image. So all the commercial VR you're seeing out there, the VR videos and those 360 things you're seeing on Facebook and YouTube, you will not get that kind of quality out of a camera like this. Let me just put that out there up front for you. So it's good enough for a consumer camera, and it's about on par with what I've seen with other ones, but don't let the 3.5K get you excited. It really isn't going to be a blown away kind of experience you're going to get from watching the videos from this. But if you're looking for an inexpensive way to get introduced to this medium, this one might not be a bad choice to do it. So let's take a look now and see how its software works and also the kind of video quality you will get out of the device. Let's have a look. Now, these devices typically live and die by their software, and they do have an app available for both Android and iOS. And the good news is that it is in English, or at least most of it is when you install it. So right now I've got it in just the preview mode. So right now this is a live feed coming from the camera. It does reduce the image quality to make this work, and of course this will impact your battery life more significantly given that it's having to stitch the images together here. But as you can see here, it is able to give you a good idea as to what's going on. I can push this button right here and take a quick photograph. It's going to do a quick capture. You can see how long it takes for it to take a still still photo, I could then switch it into video mode here and then record a video. Now what's cool is that while I'm recording here, I can get a live image as to what's going on. It does have a little bit of a delay to it when I move my hand in front of it, but generally it seems to be working pretty nicely here. And when you're done, you can stop the video and it will then save it onto the camera's memory card. And then you can actually go in and do some stuff with the recorded video file. So for example, I can go in here and play back this video that's streaming from the camera. So the quality here isn't the best right now because it is streaming back from the camera and not playing local on my device, but you can get a quick preview as to what this image looks like. And then if you want to bring it over, you can go back in here and do that. So you can just download the image over to your local storage on your device. You still have to do some more to it in order to actually do something with it, but you have to go through this process. And unfortunately, this downloading takes a while because it has to go over the Wi-Fi connection that you make. So you can see even that short video that we just took takes a little bit of time for it to transfer over to the device's local storage. And then once it's on the local storage, wait for it to finish downloading here, we can go in and do some edits to it. So now it is there, and I can go over here to local, and now we see the video there. I can tap on that and play it back now locally. You can see the quality is a little better now because it is playing back the actual file that we recorded. And then I have some other options here now that I didn't have before, including the ability to edit. And now you can see there's some Chinese still making its way into the video here. So I can go over here to edit and actually do some trimming of the video if I want. That's about all you can do. You can't add in any other videos. You can overlay some different music and add some filters and stuff to the video that you just shot, but generally it's pretty basic trimming of the video, but you can do some basic editing in the app. Right now, and this probably will change in the future, the iOS app doesn't do the editing, but it does do everything else. Now, unfortunately, you can't just pull the file off the card because this is what you get. You basically have the raw images from both of those lenses in a single file. And this is, by the way, why a 3.5K or 4K or maybe even an 8K camera is not going to be enough, because you're basically dealing with these images that are really distorted that have to be stretched back out again. And you definitely lose a lot of image quality in the process, especially when you're squeezing everything in, even to a 3.5K image like we are here. So again, don't expect great quality, and you have to put up with the app because you can't work with the video or upload it to Facebook like this. You have to go and have the app actually create this video file for you, which is something that all of the major services right now will accept, and this is what you end up with. Now, of course, this is not yet 360 degrees. It's basically combined those two images into this one image. We'll lose some quality in the process, as you'll see when we go in and look at this on some of the major services, but you have to go through the app to get this to work, and right now there is no computer app to do it, so you have to deal with your phone or tablet, and it's a very long and arduous process to get these files over. And this is why I say these cameras often live and die by their software, because as great as the hardware is on many of these cameras, and I looked at the Ricoh Theta and a camera from Kodak also, nobody's really gotten the software thing down to a point where it's not frustrating. And unfortunately, the software on this is still pretty frustrating. All right, so I wanted to show you some image samples as to what you can expect quality-wise from it. And the best way to get the best idea as to how it's going to look is to actually use the app and play it back through my video system here. So this is about as good as it's going to get. You'll see some degradation in quality when you upload to YouTube or Facebook, and that's just the nature of the beast here, but good enough, I guess, for a consumer camera. You've got the full 360 degrees here. I can go up and down, so you do have a good amount of visual information that's captured here, but again, you're having to expand it out over to that 3.5K image, so not always the best quality here, but again, I think good enough for a consumer camera. But you do have to deal with the frustrations as to how to get all this video out. So when you're done previewing it on the phone, remember we had to bring the file from the camera to the phone over Wi-Fi, and then there's another step to actually get it to where you can upload it over to YouTube or Facebook. So what I have to do here is go over to this little menu here and then click on this upload icon, and what this will do is actually stitch the image together and drop it into my photo library, and then once it's in there, I can grab it and then upload it to some of the services. And once it finds its way up to those services, you'll see that the image quality takes a pretty significant hit here. So very compressed. It's actually cutting the bit rate on the file that I uploaded in half. So it's only about 5 megabits per second when you upload it, and it really takes a hit here. It doesn't look so great, as you can see. So the output is really about in line with what I've seen with other consumer cameras here, that once it gets up to YouTube and Facebook, you're looking at a very compressed image here that will not look very impressive, and it looks a lot better on the phone app. So I wonder if there's something that they can do to maybe reduce that compression that's happening when you go to transfer that image. image. So remember, the process here is you shoot the image with the camera, you have to have the image transferred from the camera to the phone via Wi-Fi, and then you have to have the phone actually do the stitching to create a file that you can then upload to YouTube. And I also had to use YouTube's metadata injector to give YouTube the proper information it needed to make a 360-degree video out of it. So again, this process of 360 video has just not been codified into a standard yet. So everybody's doing it differently, and nobody's doing it all that great, especially at the consumer level right now. So pretty frustrating if you want to work with these files in any way when you're done with them. But still, image quality is pretty nice out of it. As you can see, again, I'm using the app that it came with, but generally these images don't get mangled too heavily when they get onto other platforms as well. You do have the option here, as you're seeing as I'm moving the app around, to have your phone's gyroscope control the motion. You also, in the case of video, have the ability to use a pair of Google Cardboard to view as well. So there are some stereoscopic features. They're not 3D, but they can project two images into the two eyes on a pair of Google Cardboard if you want to do that with their app. And of course, using some of these other services, you can do that as well. So that is the Xiaomi 360-degree action camera. And like all the other 360-degree cameras I've looked at, the hardware is actually very sound, but the software is the major point of frustration. So we are starting to see now some of the major video editing applications like Adobe Premiere, which I think can handle these files natively now, as well as Final Cut Pro with some plugins, allow you to start editing some of this 360-degree footage, but you still need to rely on the manufacturer's software to stitch that footage together into something that those other video editing packages can work with. And that is, just like every other camera out there, its biggest Achilles heel at the moment. The software is very frustrating. It's really reducing the overall video quality once it does that export and stitching, more so than you'll see in its playback on the app. And there just really needs to be some improvement there, which is a shame because the hardware here is really, really nice, very nice industrial design. You have some degree of water resistance, which is great for surfing and other activities where it might get splashed. And I really just like the camera overall. It even has a stabilizer built in. You probably saw as I was driving that the footage was very stable. Even walking wasn't so bad with it. So I like a lot of the hardware aspects of this, but the software really needs some work. And this is not just Xiaomi's problem. Everybody has this problem. And until we really settle on a standard, I think this is going to be an issue we'll be dealing with for some time in this burgeoning 360-degree industry. So I can recommend this one on the hardware side. Again, it's no better or worse than the other cameras that are out there, and unfortunately, they all still have a lot of software problems to overcome. This is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by my Patreon supporters, including gold level supporters Mark Bollinger and Brian Miller. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to Lon.TV/Patreon to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit Lon.TV/S.